Hey everyone, just want to do a little bit of a different video today. So we're just going to do a little bit of a question and answer. I had a few people that asked this recently and wanted to make a video about it. So before we start, go ahead and subscribe to our channel down below. Make sure that you hit that bell icon so you know when our videos come out. We're planning on doing a video every single week. Once we get a little bit warmer weather out, we'll be doing some on the water stream and videos there. But we're at like 12 degrees out today, so we're going to wait a little bit before hopefully we get some nicer weather and do that. But anyways, today we're going to do kind of not necessarily an intro to fly fishing, but how to start it very simply. You see a lot of people that get into it and they just want to do everything all at the same time. We get a lot of new people here in the shop that are just getting into the sport, and sometimes it's overwhelming. So today I'm just going to talk about some very basics to get into it, and how to make sure that you're not diving into the deep end and kind of drowning in the sport because you get information overload here. So one of the first things to start out with is just some basic gear. People walk in and say, what do I get? I would say that most people in the entire industry would say a 9-foot 5-weight is kind of the good all-around rod. I call it the Swiss Army Mayfly rod. It does a little bit of everything. You can do trout, you can do bass, you can do panfish. I even had guys catch steelhead on them here locally. So it's just a good all-around rod that you can throw dries, you can throw nymphs, you can throw streamers all on there. So don't worry with trying to get the absolute perfect rod and trying to do everything with it. This kind of matches a lot of things, but not everything perfectly. And don't worry about getting 3 or 4 rods in the beginning. Just get 1 or 2, you'll be fine. The next big thing that everybody asks next is fly selection. What flies do I use? What catches fish? At the end of the day, they all catch fish. That's why we tie them. But keep it simple. So start with some very, very basic dries and nymphs and streamers. Nymphs, I like to look at attractor patterns rather than something very specific. Like rather than looking at a sulfur nymph, let's get a pheasant tail. So your pheasant tails, hare's ears, prince nymphs, those are kind of just good attractor patterns overall. They catch fish, they've been around for forever. So go ahead and start with at least those 3. If you're looking in parts of the country where we've got really small flies, look at a zebra midge in a couple different colors from like 18s to 22s, even 24s are good for the small flies out there. In terms of dries, when you look at the profile of a fly, just try to match it. So understand the difference. You don't have to know the exact types of bugs out there, but know the difference between a mayfly, a caddisfly, and a stonefly. So here's how I explain it. A caddisfly looks like an aquatic moth. It has 1 set of wings that lays directly on its back, just 1 set. So you look at, a fluttery moth that's coming off the water that has 1 set of wings. It's probably a caddis. They range in size from typically 14 to 18. In tans and greens and browns. So just understand what they look like. You don't need to know the individual specific caddis out there, but just know what they look like. If you have a caddis out there, an elk hair caddis is a great pattern that catches everything on there. So that's kind of my next step in keeping it simple. Don't worry about learning all of the bugs. Just try to find 1 or 2. So ask around, figure out what hatches are in your area, and just go target 1 or 2 of them this year. Then add a second one or a third one next year. So it's interesting, I learned how to do some foraging in the last 4 or 5 years, and going out looking for wild mushrooms and other edibles, and you go out and you pick all these mushrooms and you have no clue what they are. Instead, I've learned to, okay, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to look for morels this year. I know what they look like, there's no poisonous alternatives to them, they're very simple to identify, so go do it. Do the same thing in fly fishing. So go out. In terms of caddis, like there's a great caddis hatch locally, it's the Granum caddis, and it happens usually the 2nd or 3rd week into April. There's a lot of bugs in the water you can't mistake whenever they're hatching, so go out specifically look for that and tie flies or buy flies to be able to match that specific hatch. Don't go out and be like, oh, I'm just going to figure out what's hatching and then I'm going to, match that bug or find it while I'm out there. Like, no, just keep it simple. So yes. Back to the types of flies. So yes, we've got the caddis flies. The next thing is a stonefly, as I'm reverting back to what we talked about 2 minutes ago. Stonefly is a little bit longer body and it has 2 sets of wings that lay flat on its back. So think of like when a dragonfly is flying, it has two sets of wings, front and back, and that's kind of what these stoneflies are going to look like. So we see some early stoneflies here locally, so early black stoneflies. They even call them snowflies because they'll be out in the snow. Really small and black, but two sets of wings on the back. Just find a very generic stonefly pattern. You can look at a stimulator, for instance, and a couple different colors and sizes will help you out with that. Last but not least is a mayfly. Mayfly has one set of wings on the body and it sticks straight up in the air. So when you see those on the water, sitting in underneath trees, on the grass, wherever they are, one set of wings. A very generic pattern for that is a good old-fashioned Adams. An Adams in a regular pattern or a parachute pattern works great. Just match the size, don't worry about the color, that's why it's gray, kind of matches a little bit of everything. So keep it simple. So I'm going to recap here. Just understand the basics of what the three different types of bugs are. Caddisflies, one set of wings. Stoneflies, two sets of wings. Mayfly, one set of wings standing straight up. And then go out and look for one hatch for the year. So, you can do like the Granum caddis or the caddis in the early spring, and then maybe in late spring, early summer, you say, I'm going to go out and look for sulfurs. So sulfur is a type of mayfly, sticking straight up, and it's a yellowish-orange color. So go searching for two of those, one or two of those things, rather than I'm going to go out and find all the bugs that I have and then try to identify them, and then by the time you tie them or you buy them, the hatch is over. So do a little bit of research and figure out one or two, and that's it. Don't overwhelm yourself. Same thing with fly patterns. Keep it simple. The other thing is with gear, like we talked before, a good general all-around rod is like a 9-foot 5-weight. You can even step down to a 9-foot 4-weight if you do a lot more trout fishing. But keep it simple with that. Don't go out looking for 2 or 3 different fly lines, a weight forward, a sinking, an intermediate, this and that. Even with your leaders, yes, leaders are important in terms of turning over bigger flies compared to smaller flies, but just get a good all-around 9-foot, 5X or 4X tippet at the end of your leader and go fish it. Yes, it might not cast perfect like somebody who's experienced and has been fishing for 10, 20 years. But you're going to get the fly on the water, you're going to get out and have fun, and you're not going to overwhelm yourself. So don't overwhelm yourself with that. Get some basic flies. So like I said, all of your nymphs that we talked about, dries, keep it simple with just a basic caddis pattern, a basic mayfly pattern, a basic stonefly pattern, and streamers. A good olive woolly bugger catches fish everywhere. So we had a guy in the shop the other day. He's like, I don't really know how to fish streamers. I said, you can't fish them wrong. So you can dead drift them just like you do under an indicator or without an indicator. You can swing them, you can strip them back. I said there's just no wrong way to really fish a streamer out there. Some of them catch fish, some of them don't, just depending on what the fish are doing, but there's not really a wrong way to fish a streamer. So if you're really not understanding a whole lot, throw a streamer like a black or olive woolly bugger on and go out and you're going to catch some fish, whether it's bluegill or bass or trout or anything like that. Keep your gear simple. So go out and get the basics. Get your rod and reel, get some sort of pack. You can use an old backpack if you need to. Make sure you have some waders that helps in just getting into the stream and being able to perch the fish a little bit differently. If you have an old net from when you were spin fishing, just use that. You don't need to go out and buy a fancy net or anything like that. And some people don't even use a net, so that's fine too. So this video as a whole is just to get into the sport, understand a little bit about it, and then each and every year, especially during the winter months, prep for the next year by adding a little bit more information on top of it. So you don't need to overwhelm yourself. So like I said, let's start with the Granum caddis and the sulfurs, and then maybe next year you're like, oh, right around when the sulfurs happens, the March browns happen too, and this is the pattern I'm going to need for it. So year 2 in fly fishing, let's add that as a little bit more information to be able to just add to your notebook that you have of fly fishing. And then maybe you can work on, instead of your basic cast, add in a roll cast or add in a water haul or things like that. But your very first year, don't overwhelm yourself, because you're gonna hate it. You're gonna go out there and find all these different things, and you're gonna have information overload, and you're gonna quit because of it. So keep it simple your first year. You're gonna catch fish. I can almost guarantee it. Fly fishing is supposed to be fun and get you into great places. So don't let the, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff. I've got guys that have 10, 15 different fly rods, and they're fishing for this species and that species, and all these flies that they're tying, leader formulas and all this stuff that happens. Tying your own flies, like just go out and fish your first year. Go out, spend some time on the water. That's invaluable compared to trying to learn on the internet or reading books or things like that. Just go out and fish, have some fun, enjoy it. And then for me, after that, you can kind of go a little bit more specific to say, you know what, I like nymphing, or I like dry fly fishing, or I like fishing for small stream, little brook trout in wild mountain streams, or whatever it is. So after your first year or two of kind of figuring out, by doing a lot of things, then you're going to figure out what you enjoy doing in more specifics there. So, I know guys literally who haven't tied anything besides a dry fly on for a decade. I know guys that just go out and they want to catch a ton of fish, so they Euro nymph. So if all of this is just weird terminology to you, then stick to the basics. And I think that's the best advice I can give a lot of beginners out there when they first start into the sport. Keep it simple, narrow down where your focus is, and then slowly add a little bit to it each and every year that you get into fly fishing. The last big thing that I'm going to give you is fish with other people. There's a lot of great knowledge out there. Hop on a message board, talk to somebody in your community that you might know, family or friend. I've learned a lot over the years just by fishing with other people and kind of gaining knowledge off of them. Not only will they, be on the stream and help you land a big fish if you hook into one, or say, hey, that bug that's coming off, that's this, and here's a couple flies to do it. They might also take you to places that you don't know, and introduce you to a new stream or a new species to fish for. So do your best in trying to, get around other people in the sport and let them kind of lessen your learning curve there. So there's lots of great people out there. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us here. We'd be more than happy to do that. We know people all over the country that we can even connect you to if you have, some needs of local knowledge. But keep it simple. So narrow it down to what you want to fish for. I just want to fish for trout. Okay, well let's do, a couple different things in trout fishing. Like I said, match 1 or 2 hatches for the year. Keep your gear simple. We can expand later. Maybe next year you say, I want to do some bluegill fishing on top of the trout. Yeah, you can probably do it with your 9'5" weight, but maybe let's get a little 3 weight to have some fun with it. And then learn a little bit more about bluegill fishing. So keep it simple, have fun, and then expand on your knowledge each and every year. That's the best advice I can give for people who are just getting into the sport. We've had a lot of new people that have got into it in the last year or so. It seems like, even though all the bad things that have happened with COVID, one of the great things that's happened is a lot of people have gotten back into the outdoors. So like I've gotten into upland bird hunting last fall, but we've had so many people walk into the shop in the last year and say, you know what, I can't really do much. I used to fly fish, or my dad used to fly fish. I want to get back into it, or I want to start doing it. And it's gotten a lot of people out into the sport. But now we're having this information overload of, oh my goodness, I walk into the shop and there's 70,000 flies here. What do I use? Okay, here's a half a dozen. Let's go out and fish. So keep it simple, have some fun, go out and fish, and then expand on your knowledge each and every year. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. We've got a few more in plan to be able to do in this style, kind of more of a question and answer. So if you have anything you want to get answered, we've got a few more on the docket. Go ahead and shoot us an email or even comment below. Say, hey Ryan, I'd like to learn more about Euro nymphing, for instance. Or hey Ryan, how do I start tying flies? What should I do to do that? So go ahead and ask some of those questions in the comments below. We'll be more than happy to shoot a little bit of a mini answer down below and then maybe do a future video on it too. Thank you guys again. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell icon, hop on our website. We constantly have some new products and sales going on, www.risenfly.com. Check everything out there. And if you ever need assistance, reach out to us. Have a great day.